How has living in France changed me? Well, stay tuned because I'm going to share with you 4 beliefs or ways of being that got turned on their head as a result of my moving abroad. Now, if you've already subscribed to my channel, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you haven't yet, please do so and click that notification bell so that each time I upload a video about moving abroad, living in France, or finding the confidence and courage to live life on your terms, you will be notified. My name is Patricia Brooks, and 4 years ago, I quit my job and I moved to the south of France so that I could have experiences that would really challenge me and so that I could become fluent in the French language. And I'm happy to say that both of those things have happened. And in this video, I want to share with you 4 beliefs that I held and that I no longer hold because of my experience and new perspective living in a foreign country. So let's get to it. The first belief that got busted for me was that I was worthy of having health insurance without having a job. In the United States, healthcare is tied to your job if you're fortunate enough to be at a company that has healthcare as a benefit. So, so for 50 years of my life, that's what I was taught to believe. I moved to France, and it wasn't until my 3rd year in that I applied for the French health care card, the carte vitale, and the supplemental insurance mutuelle, because I did not believe that I qualified. I did not believe that I was worthy of getting this insurance. And it wasn't until my former boyfriend said, "Oh, no. You absolutely qualify as a resident of France to get health insurance." And so he's like, "You know what? I'm going to help you apply for that." And he did. And several months later, I got the carte vitale and the mutuelle. And it's been an enlightening experience to know that, well, just because I live here, that I qualify for the health insurance. Now, there are contributions that I need to make for my healthcare, but that's fine because I'm covered if something major were to happen. I'm not reliant on travel insurance, which is not major medical. And I will say my first several years here, my first 3 years here, I paid out of pocket for my prescriptions for doctor's visits, and which were really, really reasonable, which was another reason that I did not go down the path of applying, because I thought, well, number 1, I don't qualify. Number 2, well, I can afford this. The prescriptions much, 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 much more reasonable here, and the doctor's visits as well. 25 euros, about $29 US for a doctor's visit. Really, really affordable. And even labs, I paid for labs and they were affordable too. So that was something that got flipped on its head. The second belief or way of being actually that got changed for me, and it's still in the process of changing, is that every time that I go into a store, I thought that I was suspect of being a shoplifter in the United States. And so I was super conscious of not putting my hands in my pocket when I was in the stores, of not touching items unnecessarily unless I wanted to purchase them, because I thought that people were watching me, because I thought that maybe I would steal. And this was something that I really wasn't that conscious of that I was doing. I was doing it unconsciously. But once I got to France and didn't feel like I was being watched, or that was the expectation that, oh, she's Black, she's in our store, she's going to steal something. And it really became evident to me, each time I would check out at a store. Oftentimes they would ask, "Oh, do you want a receipt?" And I would always say, "Oh, of course," because that receipt was proof that I had purchased that. If I got outside the store and somebody challenged me on that, I would have that receipt. And I noticed that I was just accumulating these receipts. And I'm like, why am I always getting these receipts? Because now I've got to deal with them at home. And I realized it was because it was proof. It was protection for me. The other thing that I found unusual and that I have adopted now is when you go to a grocery store, some people don't get carts they have their bags that they bring in to take their purchases home in. And so they go through the store and they fill their bag with the items they're going to purchase. They get up to the cash register, they put their items on the conveyor belt, they show their empty bag to the cashier, and then they refill their bags once they've been scanned and paid for. And when I first saw that, I thought, wow, that's pretty bold. The first time I ever did that, I was just kind of looking over my shoulder like, oh my gosh, is somebody going to stop me and say, what are you doing? Of course they didn't, but that was the mindset that I'd grown up in. So that was a way of being that is changing for me. I will say that I'm still a little bit cautious when I'm in a store and I still ask for receipts, but it's something that is changing for me. So those are two of the 4 beliefs that got turned on their heads because I'm living in a foreign country. Have you moved to a different culture, maybe a different country, or maybe a different place within your current country where the cultural norms were different and you changed your beliefs about something, or even how you reacted or responded to things? Comment below. Belief number 3 has to do with work. And the idea that you have to go work for somebody else until you're 65 or 67. And oftentimes you're going to hate that job. But you know what? You got to suck it up and do it. And this belief came to me thanks to my parents. They believe that you go to school, you get a good paying job, and you work until you can retire. And the idea of working for yourself was not anything that they had ever thought of. And so they did not have the entrepreneurial mind that some people do have. Additionally, that job that you go into, you probably aren't going to like. And that idea came to me because one day my mom came home from school. She was a school teacher. And she said to me that she was talking to another teacher and complaining about the job. And this other teacher said to her, Pat, my mom's name was Pat, the reason they call it work is because it's not supposed to be enjoyable, is what her teacher friend said. And my mom came home and parroted that to me. And I absorbed that idea that, yeah, work is not supposed to be enjoyable. It's work, right? It's got to be hard. It's got to be unpleasant. But I'm coming to find that that's not the case. Number one, I don't have to go into a job and work for somebody else in order to support myself. I can be an entrepreneur and be a successful entrepreneur. And moving here has taught me that, because 3 months in, I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to be looking for a job and then I'll be working for somebody else. But 3 months in, a former coworker asked me how my job search was going. And I told her, I had to be honest with her and with myself, that I really wasn't looking for a job, and really, I didn't really want to work for somebody else. And that caused me to think about what my skills were. I had received a coach certification. It caused me to kind of explore, well, what could I do with that? And now here I am. And I'm not going to work for somebody else. I'm doing work that I absolutely love, and it's working for me. So this was another way of being that just got tossed out because I am in a different country, that I have a different perspective. It's just so life affirming to recognize that the things that we once believed and held us back don't have to. And finally, belief number 4 has to do with dating. So I thought that when I moved to France, that dating would be just as easy or difficult as it was in the United States, dating an American man. And the fact of the matter is, for me, in my experience, that it feels like dating here is slightly more difficult, slightly more challenging, because when I date a French guy, especially a French guy who does not have a lot of experience either dating Americans or with the American culture, that there is a cultural divide. Like, there is a way of dating in France, and there's a way of dating in the United States. A way of dating and communicating, I guess, is what I want to say. So there can be some miscommunication, some missteps, and some feelings of, oh, I'm not really sure if the person I'm dating and have been dating for 9 months really likes me because he doesn't do X, Y, or Z. For example, in the United States, there's more communication about how you feel about the other person, whether that is communication because somebody requests, confirmation, or because it's just outright spoken. In the couple of relationships I've had here in France, what I've experienced is that, well, because they're with you or because they have introduced you to their family, it's assumed that they like you, right? And there is not that need to affirm or reaffirm that like. And that can be challenging if you come from a culture where you do get affirmation or confirmation, right? Because you can kind of feel like you're out there on that limb and you just don't really know where you stand. The other thing that I noticed in my relationships is that I got introduced to family and friends really early on in our dating relationships. And that, to me, that was surprising. I was a little bit surprised and a little bit unnerved because I'm like, oh, well, number one, I was still really working to master French. But number two, it's like, oh, it's been, 6 weeks since we actually met face to face, and you want to introduce me to your family. And I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. And so, because in the United States, when you introduce somebody to your family, it's a big step. But here it just feels like, oh no, well, I want you to see, I want you to meet my family, my friends, see how you get along, and see, if this could go any further, right? And so it's a different idea. And so those little cultural differences, and I'm sure there are more, I think can make it more challenging because you just don't have the same foundation of the way or the how dating should go. And then on top of that, there's the communication where I have gotten to a point in my life where I am able to be more expressive about what I want and need. And in the relationships I was in, I did not feel like the guys were able to express themselves. And I don't know if that's much different from guys in the United States, but it was, I think, more challenging because of the language barrier. So that is number 4, a belief that got busted, that dating here in France would be, as easy or as hard as it is in the United States. For me, feels more challenging. But, one of the reasons I moved to France was I wanted challenge. So there's a challenge I need to master. Now, those are 4 beliefs that got challenged for me because I decided to move to a foreign country, which is an incredible thing because now I have this new perspective. I feel more confident. I feel more worldly. If you are considering making a move abroad but aren't quite sure if moving abroad is right for you, I have a resource that can help you to determine that. And I'm going to put a link to that in the description. So feel free to download that. Now, I absolutely love doing these videos and would love to know what sort of content you would like to see. What questions do you have for me? What do you want to know about me, my life in France, or how I managed to move abroad? Comment below and I will be sure to reply, and perhaps there is a video about that in the future. And that is all I have for you today. I will see you again next time. Bye for now.